right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation continues right now on the state of the nation. Professor Tom Ojienda is with us here, Senator for Kisumu, Honorable Dan Manzo, Senator for Makueni, Honorable Hilary Sigei, Senator for Bomet is with us on State of the Nation. Thank you for making time. And Manzo, is Wiper feeling left out? No,
not at all. Trevor, you know, many Kenyans and many people in ODM and in Kenya Kwanza wish it's one-party system. And you know, as much as we migrated from one-party system and there's a new constitution, a lot of politicians thinking is in one-party system. There's no way all of us can go on board, and there's no one speaking for Kenyans. And therefore, the whole idea of majority and minority or government and opposition has been washed away. And I believe that if all of us were to join government and all political parties went in to bed with Kenya Kwanza, then Kenyans will be left hopeless. That was not the whole idea of a new constitution. And Kenyans fought very hard for a new constitution. One of the biggest problems, and I heard Ishungwa talk about public participation. In this particular nomination and approval of cabinet, there is very little element of public participation. The public did not participate. They have sent memorandums. Their memorandums have not been heard. We should have had assembly of quite a number of memorandums, and these particular owners of these affidavits or memorandums appear and make their case before the House. Because when the House sits, it actually sits like a high court and can determine an issue which would have been taken through the long process of court for the benefit of the people. So I want to say that there is no proper public participation. The whole process was rushed, and there is no proper debate. Yeah. And just like many times members of parliament have said in many important legislations like Finance Bill 23, they later on came and said, you know, I don't know where this came from. Yeah. We were not part of this. And it is because of this rushed legislation, they have only one target, you know, to rule the people unconstitutionally. Okay. So I want to say the whole nomination process and approval is largely unconstitutional. Yeah. The so-called new cabinet appointees from ODM, which is a party within the coalition. You know, there are two main coalitions in government, the ones who are registered under the law. There is a Kenya Kwanza coalition and Azimio coalition. So there is no way one foot will be in government and the other foot is not in government. The ideal position would have been that ODM leaves Kenya leaves Azimio, does an agreement, you know, with Kenya Kwanza, forms a coalition, because we are allowed to form a coalition after. And then they leave the other parties to form the opposition. That would have been the ideal situation. So what has happened is there is a very quick relationship. It is not even cohabitation. It is a very quick relationship which is for quick fix. And I don't see it bearing report, because now Parliament is moving alone without the people. Okay. You know, Parliament and even the President are employees of the people. Under the new constitution, the people are sovereign. And that has been denied by those who grab power, or those who have been donated a little power by the people. Parliament has just been donated a little power by the people, which they have misused. We have laws which have not been followed. We have a constitution which have not been followed. And when the court pronounces itself, Ishungwa is the first one to abuse the court and to make statements on the floor of the House, which are unpalatable and which are not good for democracy. Okay. So we need discipline with the leaders of majority. We need discipline in Parliament. And that's why Kenyans are saying this is not how we intended it to be. Okay. There is a problem. Resign, go home. Although currently you see Kenyans must know that elections under the new constitution are held after 5 years. Okay. That Kenyans must know. Then Kenyans must also know that, and especially the young people, a lot of them don't participate in elections. You need to acquire an identity card, and then you need to acquire a voter's card. and then you need to vote very vigorously for the government you want.
All right.
And I think in future, Kenyans are going to correct that. They've seen the mistakes which have been done by a majority of Kenyans, so that then you can elect a government which can follow the law, which is not a dictatorship. The so-called broad-based government is a broad-based dictatorship. They have majority in the House. They are going to dictate their way all through. We, the minority, will continue to check the government and correct it so that it may come back to track and follow the constitution. The ship which is sinking is only sinking because it has failed to follow the constitution.
Prof is saying you missed that ship. That's why you...
No. This ship, you know, even if you miss it, you have no regrets because it will anyway sink.
Okay, Prof. You know, even as the swearing in is happening, there's a Gen Z's protest called Nane Nane. They are saying this is not what we wanted. Has the government failed the Gen Z's?
Trevor, that is a slip question. It is a slip question because I have to respond to that question with two lenses, the Gen Z lens and the objective lens. The Gen Z lens would be, the youth would be saying, we do not have enough of us in the new cabinet. We probably have one individual, the CS from Meru, Mr. Muga, who is 32 years old. We don't have another younger person. And that is to say, if the Gen Zs wanted to be at the center of the executive in terms of CSS, faceless, tribeless, formless, as they say they are, they did not present a leader at all. And they actually themselves said they were not interested in appointments. They were interested in a transparent outfit, a framework of good governance, a foundation that is democratic and participatory, and that is all-inclusive. And that framework, in my view, Trevor, is what we have in the new government. Remember, His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, did three things. One, he said he will not appoint CSS. Two, he disbanded Parliament. He disbanded Cabinet and has a new framework. But three, also disbanded the budgets. He did not assent to the Finance Act, or the Finance Bill, for that matter. He even declined the new financial support that was intended for the office of the First Lady, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and the office of the Deputy President. And that's a milestone because that was at the top of the agenda of the Gen Zs. Let me say this. Government, as they say, is an odoriferous, it's basically a saga that is attractive. So you have one group that will still feel, and if they're genuine, a lot of the demands by the Gen Zs have been met. Remember, we have different levels of government. I think there will be a reconstitution of the PSS as well, the second level. There will be a reconstitution and a balance.
Of the PS.
Reflective of the, reflective of the CSS. That is yet to come. Gen Zs have a chance to also contribute to this technical level of government. But I think you cannot, on the other hand, say that we are formless, we have no interest, but you're out there protesting. You must at least have a face. You must have an agenda. You must present something that you say, we have 1-2 people that we think can do well in some of these portfolios, and here we present them. Thirdly, however, across government, that is in political parties or political formations, we have Gen Zs in all formations. And I am sure, Trevor, political leaders, both in Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, have Gen Zs not only within them, but at the forefront in policy formulation, policy implementation. And a lot of, all of us who are in governance, all of us have Gen Zs supporting all that we do. And I think it's only a matter of time, Trevor. The demonstrations that we saw probably was much more than Gen Zs. And I think when we finally deal with the Gen Z question, remember there was a committee that was formed by the head of public service incorporating views, and so that we then know in what structures and in what form we incorporate the youth in our agenda. Remember, the youth must form part of the agenda of every leader.
Okay.
And I say this from my county. The youth at the forefront. Youth, women, informal sector. These are important sectors that you cannot ignore if you're a leader. Okay. And I think the president has incorporated Gen Zs fairly well in the new administration.
Okay.
The face of Kenya, Trevor, that we see in this government of national unity, this face of Kenya is important.
Okay.
And let me remind my learned friend Manzo, in 2007, 2008, after the post-election violence, Kalonzo Musyoka did exactly what His Excellency Raila Odinga has done now, to save government. That time, Kalonzo went in, after Kupita Katikati, he went and became vice president of Mwai Kibaki. Today, Manzo is here crying all over the place. He's crying all over the place. Yet, they did exactly the same thing. Raila Odinga has also come to save this government so that we are able to move as a nation. The interest of this nation, Trevor, is more important than the individual interests of Wiper.
If the government had addressed the concerns of the Gen Zs, they wouldn't go to the streets today. They're saying they're still going to the streets today, Nane Nane, because they've not been heard.
The president listened to the youth of this country, and a good number of us also have indeed advised where we can, and also have taken the step to listen to the grievances of us, the young generation. Trevor, I would tell you for a fact that Prof here has enlisted to you the sort of accommodations that the president did following the demonstrations that we had with the young Kenyans. He first of all acceded to having them in the X space. They spoke, they abused, they engaged, and ultimately there was what one would objectively say a conversation healthy between the executive, the presidency, and the young Kenyans. That one he did. He listened to them, and they said, do not pass the finance bill. He rejected, against all odds and against all the pressure that was coming from the National Assembly, the demands on delivery, on the promises that the government made, and all that. The president went ahead to say that, look, you have said that we need to reduce the expenses that we incur as a government, and we have got to engage on a very, austerity measures that would support reduction of government expenditure. He scrapped the funding to the First Lady's office, the Second Lady's office, and the Prime Cabinet Secretaries. That went. That was one of the demands that came from the youth. Of course, besides, I've said the rejection of the finance bill. He also completely reduced funding to State House. He scrapped the confidential vote. He did that, and that was pronounced, that was acted upon. And I would say then that the president has fully accommodated the participation of the youth of this country. What I only want to request, and this is with a very heavy commitment to support the youth agenda, is the aspect of permitting themselves to be infiltrated and be used for political expediency. Because the conversation that began was very healthy. When they said that we want to ensure that there is a change of governance in this country, we want to fight corruption, we want to make sure that the resources of this country are utilized in a manner that reflects the condition of the economic situation of the country. They spoke for and on behalf of very many Kenyans. And that, I can tell you, Trevor, the president has listened to them, and very many of us have, those who are in leadership, have really listened to them, because, the youth comprised over 70% of the population of Kenya, and therefore, it will be actually unwise of any leader not to listen to the demands of the young generation. The thing I'm saying is that let them not be infiltrated by the, the team comprising the civil society, politicians, who, by the way, do not have the interest of this country at heart, do not have the interest of the youth they are using at heart.
So as a young legislator yourself, why do you think they're going to the streets then?
And that is one of the things I said. If only they were to avoid being infiltrated. The reason as to why they're going to the streets as of today, for instance, is they're still demanding on the things which we've even talked about. We've said that the president has conceded to. For instance, when they say Ruto must go, at the same time they're saying that this is a country governed by the rule of law, by the constitution. The constitution of Kenya says the election cycle is 5 years.
They can resign.
The term of the president.
They can resign.
You will respond to that when the time comes. Allow me to The constitution says the term of the president is 5 years. He can go in for 2 terms, 10 years max. It also envisages a situation where if, for instance, you've been found unfit to be in office, you can resign. And those are the conditions that the Constitution provides. What the sponsors of this demonstration, which I actually do not believe are very genuine demonstrations by the young Kenyans, because a good number of them, Trevor, if you were to go outside the city where a number of those who are sponsoring these demonstrations are, outside Nairobi city, everywhere in Kenya. I come from Bomet County. It is not there. It is not something that is happening. Even in Makueni, where Senator Manzo comes from, there are no youths who are going to the streets demonstrating that Ruto must go. So this is something that is confined to where there is money. A good number of people have been told, look, these resources are here. Please make sure that you fund and ask the young ones to go to the streets, because they will get something at the end of the day. But if you were to have a conversation with a good number of them, and Kenyans of goodwill, they will tell you at least the president has conceded to some extent and have listened to us. We need to give him and his team an opportunity to serve the people of Kenya. I want to encourage the young ones. They should not relent on their fight for transparency, accountability, and good governance in those whom they've given an opportunity to serve in office. I included. They should not stop telling us as it is. They should not stop demanding that we serve them transparently in all aspects of our mandate within our various offices. That is the only way people will also show accountability and also make sure that the young ones participate in leadership. Lastly, they should also attempt to have, like when the president said we need to have a national dialogue after the pronouncement that he made, there was a need to say, good people, we cannot have a dialogue with 1 million of us. We can only have a dialogue with the leadership. So they should also package themselves in a way that we would have people who are serious, people who are committed, people who are very objective, so that if there is any agenda that they feel like has not been honored, has not been listened to, they can front. And I'm sure the government is ready, willing, and will accommodate a conversation by an organized, engaged, and committed leadership of the youth. Of course, I know they do have. We now have, of course, CS Muga, who is 32 years old, and he is representing one of them. And a good number of us, we are there to serve the interest of Kenyans, but we will always appreciate the fact that we have got a 75% youth population in this country. We must speak to their concerns. We must keep the government in check to ensure that the youth get that which is theirs in the government and in future, because this is the leadership of tomorrow.
Manzo, do the Gen Zs still have legitimate concerns this morning when they go to the streets?
I think they do. First and foremost, you know, I wish my 2 colleagues who are very learned, I have a lot of respect for them. I've read a book called The Leaderless Devolution. There's a book which was written somewhere in UK in 2014. And this has caught up with quite a number of governments. What the UK did recently were to conduct elections. And you saw how a party which was as powerful as Kenya Kwanza lost almost everything in that election. If you read that, then you begin to understand what the young people are thinking. You see, Muga I'm sure he has never been to experts and does not associate with Gen Zs at all, and therefore doesn't understand what the demands.
You cannot speak on it.
Since he knows, I withdraw that. I withdraw that. I withdraw that.
Yeah.
But I want to say also, if justice was to be done in this country, because one of the biggest problems is injustice. And where there is injustice, you will never get peace. You must first begin with the justice.
Yeah.
You see the legal framework we have. And one of the biggest problems of the Gen Zs right now today are the 60 bodies lying in a city mortuary belonging to their colleagues. And as the government runs around to please people from Mombasa to Embu to everywhere, running around, no one is addressing that particular issue. There are so many of these young people, and I'll tell you, most of the people who have died or been injured in these protests, there are people, young people even who are going on their way things. You know, they are not even part of the demonstrations or have been accosted brutally by the police. The police brutality has not been addressed at all. So it's only America who are telling Kenya, we are watching you, you know, you abuse human rights. And the Permanent Secretary of Foreign Affairs cosmetically, you know, replies and says we are keeping, while everybody knows that no one has been prosecuted. And that IPOA and all these institutions have been rubbished. They are so weakened that they are voiceless. And therefore, if a government was to be fair, they should first address the injustices which have been committed in all the demonstrations which have been under the law, because demonstrations are there in the Constitution. And actually, if, you know, in an ideal demonstration, there are laws, you know, the Public Order Act, which must be followed, where before you disperse a crowd or you fire a bullet, in fact, you should never fire a bullet. There are rubber bullets and there are many other ways you can deal with the crowds. And a good example was in Uganda, where demonstrators were expected to be killed. None of them were killed. The police and the army guarded and allowed them to demonstrate. And when they were tired, they went home. But they protected the properties, like their parliament and any other place they went through. So what the police should do when there are demonstrations is to guard properties, so that, in fact, at that particular time, they were saying the goons were from ODM. That's why ODM has been invited to government, thinking that will stop the goons. No. That's what the allegation, that the goons belong to ODM. Now, we want to see...
We are a good... We are a serious party. We don't...
That's what... Don't do good. That is what initially had been alleged. And nobody said... You know the meaning of allegation?
Nobody said that...
But anyway...
The ODM cannot be...
That was the allegation. So we are now expecting... Now that they are not expected to be any goons. Goons have been withdrawn. Now that they are not expected to be any goons, then we should not see police killing and demonstrator today. And unless the president addresses the issue of the young people who are dead and those who are injured, then he has missed the point, he has missed the target, and you know, and he is headed to a very serious situation with the young Kenyans. He must first address that, because that will begin addressing the injustices and will cool down Kenyans and they will see justice be done. Okay. What the Gen Zs expected, anybody who had serious issues against them, and I said Parliament seats equivalent to a High Court, and the decisions of Parliament can go a long way to sort out problems of Kenyans. When Parliament misses it, when it becomes a rubber stamp and a dictated parliament, who are using the law, you know, like a joke. You know, the law is there. Kenya has very good laws right now, from the current constitution to many other laws which give the structures of government. When you do not do proper public participation, when you do not allow the public to participate in the vetting, you have again missed the point. You have missed the youths, you have missed the Gen Zs, and by the way, these Gen Zs are not foolish. They are very well educated young people. And even where the government again missed and should go back and correct. First of all, and I believe it was President Moi, he would have withdrawn that finance bill before Parliament was attacked. But the president had to wait for Parliament to be attacked and completely embarrassed. And then he was told, we are done with the Parliament, sign it on Wednesday, we are with you on Thursday. That's how he withdrew. he withdrew under the wrong circumstances. He should have been advised earlier enough, withdrew the bill, taken it back to the people, and moved with the people.
Okay.
The government is moving without the people. And the people are suffering, and they have cried loud. President Reagan in America, when things were as bad economically as Kenya is today, he did not increase the taxes. He reduced the taxes completely, made businesses thrive, and these businesses have hired young people and a lot. Now, what is the Kenyan situation? Most go-downs in industrial area are closed. They used to keep a lot of young people busy. Why are they closed? The cost of living has been made very high since Kenya Kwanza came to power. And when you make cost of living very high, you kill businesses. And the final example is sneaky the levy of petroleum, even when you have withdrawn the bill. Where was this levy hanging? It is another illegality which has annoyed Kenyans, and so long as cost of fuel is very high, then cost of living in Kenya is high. The president must address that, or do the honorable thing, resign, because it is an option in the constitution. Okay.
Prof, you want to respond to Manzo?
Trevor, it is unfortunate that Senator Manzo seems to hold the view that my political party, the ODM, was incorporated in government.
That was an allegation before.
Yes, that's an allegation that you should not even be heard talking about. That the incorporation of ODM in government was to stem the goons who are demonstrating because they are from ODM. That is incorrect.
That was the allegation.
Yes, the party.
And that's how the simplistic the president thought you so
Trevor, let me confirm that ODM is a law-abiding party. We do not have goons. We operate.
What are the ones which chase us away from?
No.
Remember, we had goons in Jupe. No. Who disrupted the... I think who disrupted...
That is where Manzo is coming from.
You know, Professor Agenda left ODM long time ago.
Let me tell you.
Agenda cannot speak for ODM.
When the party leader speaks, the party leader had spoken at Jaramogi, at Jupe, and then his party leader tried to speak. I think that was what a sanction.
That's not the case.
And
I was there. You were not there. You left ODM long time ago.
The youth who were simply expressing themselves. So I was there. The youth were simply expressing themselves. But we do not have goons in ODM. We only have active youth, energetic youth, who keep the peace. They are not goons. Trevor, let me say this, and let me just respond. Let me respond to 2 points. Number one, Trevor, the Constitution of Kenya at Article 1 affirms the sovereignty of the people. But at Article 2, it affirms the supremacy of the Constitution of Kenya. Then you go to Chapter 10, you have representation and election, which election occurs every 5-year cycle on the second week of August. That's when we have elections. Now that is entrenched in stone in the Constitution. This catchword, and it is important to say this, and my learned friend, the senator for might have spoken to it. When you have people come to the streets and demonstrate, not on the premise of reform or accountability or transparent government, but demanding the removal of a government from power, shouting Ruto must go, then those are not demonstrators with a genuine cause. Those are demonstrators who want to drive this country into chaos. Those are demonstrators who have no respect for the Constitution. Because the Constitution contemplates an election and the replacement of government by another government. The Constitution does not contemplate an interregnum. Now, an interregnum is a space of power brought about by chaos or the removal of a government from power through unconstitutional means. Now, that must be resisted. And that is why we are saying, Trevor, that you cannot come to the streets and purport to say you are Gen Z, but your objective is to remove government from power. That is a coup. That is not a genuine clamor for change. I think those are the two distinctions that the Senator from Metro was trying to make. So for Manzo to come and
no, I think you're misunderstanding the Genesis.
For Manzo,
the Genesis are not staging.
When you say Ruto must go, what are we saying? What are you saying?
Yeah.
When you're saying Ruto must, what are you saying? You're basically saying you leave the seat of power. You leave it to who? Who takes over when the president resigns or leaves office? What are you saying? If you remove government from power, what are you saying? You dissolve parliament. What are you saying? That you're looking for a gap? You're looking for chaos? That cannot be acceptable. And I think that's where that is the distinction between a genuine Gen Z claim for change and transformation and a situation that contemplates the violation of the Constitution. I think those are the two things. But let me say this, just in response to the Senator for Makueni. The reform process that he speaks to, including the genuine clamor for transformation to move this country to productivity, are the reasons that the president dissolved cabinet. He dissolved cabinet to embrace competence, accountability, transparency, public participation, inclusivity, and a reflection of the face of Kenya in now what we call a broad-based government.
But yet these same people came in, save for a few faces.
We have, Trevor, only 11 members of cabinet made it back. 12 members of cabinet did not make it back into cabinet. We have new faces. This is a brand new government. And remember, as I said, those who made it back, the 7 made it back on the basis of pure competence. And I think it's not lost to us. Let anyone tell us who is not qualified for the portfolio they've been assigned now in the present government. Who amongst all these CSs will not perform? I think time is the only factor here. I'll tell you this, Trevor, without batting an eyelid, that the government is now ready for takeoff. And let us give the government a chance to perform. As we attend the swearing in this morning with my learned friend, we leave for State House shortly, we will be ushering in a competent cabinet that will show this country that it is indeed what the president did was only good for this country.
Okay.
And I think it is time that Wiper realize that the opportunity given to you, they are looking at leadership in the future. They are thinking they'll be president in 2027. Kalonzo cannot be true in 2027.
He will.
He will not.
Why?
Why?
He will not.
It's a decision of the people.
Why not?
About the people elected.
We are here. We come back here.
Prof has been a prophet here for quite some time. So when he says that, we find out what he means by that. Why do you think it can't be a political force in 2024?
It is the people of Kenya who will decide.
Let me tell you
the
why
ballot.
it will be difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult because they incorporate, as long as the matrix in politics works, where we have incorporation of the Coast region, the Western region, the Nyanza region, and all these regions in support of His Excellency President William Ruto, it will be difficult for Kalonzo to rely only on the Eastern Bloc and the Central.
I think that is very simplistic.
It's very, very difficult.
Cheap way of thinking and an abuse to Kenyans' intelligence. He's abusing the intelligent Kenyans.
The only reason that Wiper didn't get into government is because Kalonzo, he told me, this gentleman, that they're waiting for 2027. You don't wait.
No,
get into government and you prepare.
We're working on.
What are you waiting for? It will never come.
Okay, Sige, let me bring in on this conversation. There's something that also the president himself said when he was touring Embu, I believe. He said, "Sitaki kuitwa Zakayo peke yangu."
Yes.
So was this a matter of bringing everybody else together to prosper the government, or was it bringing everyone else together to share the blame of what happens?
The answer is the answer lies to your statement. Lies in your statement. It is to form a government of national unity so that we prosper, we move forward as Kenyans.
But he said,
because he's saying that let me rephrase it.
Yeah.
Kenya Kwanza, when it came into office, one of its agenda items was to unite the people of Kenya, to form a government that you will not say, I am not a party to Kenya Kwanza government, or rather, I'm not a beneficiary of Kenya Kwanza government, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a Kenyan. What the president is trying to do is that, look, it doesn't matter that you are a member of Kenya Kwanza or Azimio coalition, you are a Kenyan in the first place. And therefore, you are entitled to benefit from the services that the government of the day is doing or expected to do. In the same breath, he's saying then, you people, we are saying we are not getting any resources, public resources for that matter, anywhere else other than from the taxes that we pay. And therefore, when you make reference to sitaki kuitwa Zakayo peke yangu, it's not like he's saying, come on guys, so that we share the name or the blame. He's just saying, we are supposed to be Kenyans, and Kenyans are all of us. And therefore, if it's about governance, I have invited my brothers and sisters and friends from the coalition of, not coalition now, from ODM, and they have come in. We are running a government of national unity, and therefore we are all now focused on one item, delivering to the people of Kenya. And that is the message. So the answer is that it is not because he wanted to share the blame. It is because he wanted to have everyone on board, so that when we are sharing the cake, everybody is present. When we are talking about what projects are to be given priority, what governance issues are to be dealt with, and how do we deal with, everyone is on board. And that is why when you look at the constitution of the cabinet that was approved yesterday by Parliament, it is regional balance. It's picked from every corner of Kenya. We have got from coast, from western, from northeastern. Everyone is represented in that cabinet, and therefore we're looking at a representation of the people of Kenya, and therefore service delivery will naturally flow to every corner of this country. And Trevor, allow me to respond to a few issues which Honorable Manzo has misrepresented to the public. It's very important, and I said this. I know my learned senior here probably could have been for the last couple of days struggling with the reality that, you know what, it is only Manzo and his team of Wiper who are outside a newly formed government of national unity, because he's talked about, for instance, the presidential withdrawal or rejection of the finance bill, that he did it out of pressure. Which pressure? This thing was passed by Parliament, by a majority of members of Parliament, and the president did not say that I'm under pressure. The president talked to the people of Kenya and said that, look, I have listened to the concerns. And the bigger picture at that moment was, do we deal with the situation on the basis of what the people of Kenya have said or not? That cannot amount to pressure to a president. And you have been in leadership, Manzo. You know, let's not trivialize some of these serious decisions merely because we want to have some political growth at that moment.
You don't think invasion of Parliament is tantamount to pressure? I
was in Parliament when it was invaded, together with a number of my colleagues. It was one of that moment that you wouldn't want to recall and say, you know, it was an experience that you really want to go back to. No.
So isn't that pressure from the public?
It wouldn't warrant to be the justification for the withdrawal by the president. I mean, by all standards, it wouldn't.
It was the highest form of displeasure shown by the public.
Yes, it was one of the things that Parliament did. Yes, it was one of the things, of course, that definitely was not the best to experience. It was really, Trevor, one of those situations that you wouldn't want to get there to. But I'm saying, let's not trivialize the decision by the president to say, I have listened to the Kenyans, to be pressure, and therefore it is the only reason or justification for rejection of the bill. No, so many other factors which now the president took us through and justified that decision. And two, he's talked about non-public participation. For instance, he said that we've sneaked in, for instance, the petroleum levy, RMLF. That is not true. I mean, the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen is the person who signed the Gazette notice shortly before he left office. And in the course of his interviews, he ran the panel through the procedure that led to the gazettement of the increased RMLF. And it is also not true that that increase has led to an increase in the cost of fuel. it is not true. That is also what was availed to the people of Kenya. He, in fact, said that we did public participation, and we watched in a number of media platforms when he was engaging the public with regard to this. And part of the justification that he gave for purposes of justifying an increase is that it is the last time there was an increase on this fuel levy was in the year 2016, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It then cannot make sense for us to say the levy that we were paying in 2016 would still be the levy that we want to pay now, yet at the same time, as Kenyans, through our own actions and the actions of our young ones who were demonstrating, we need roads. One of the issues that we're struggling with at the moment is funding the maintenance of these roads. So I really would want to encourage my colleague that even though we want to have a political position on certain issues, like this is one of those things that we should read. Yeah. The reports that have been placed before Parliament, before the social media, and tell Kenyans exactly the truth in terms of the justifications for some of the actions.
Okay.
And so, as we even encourage Kenyans, as we ask those who are going out on Nane Nane today, they should not forget the fact that as much as we speak about Article 37, that entitles them to go and demonstrate and picket and do what they want to do, the right on Article 37 ends when the right under Article 24 begins. I mean, if you want to go to the streets, go to the streets with a commitment to make sure that you do not infringe on other people's rights. You are able to present your petition or memoranda to the relevant institutions, and you will take responsibility. And that is why I said earlier on, we would be very happy to have people picketing because that is their constitutional right. But they should also ensure that they are not infiltrated by the people who, unfortunately, Honorable Manso has called them goons. They are not goons. These are people who want to exercise their right and tell the people this is the thing. They are not goons, and they are not necessarily from ODM.
So they were called goons by Kenya Kwanza.
They are people who are being funded by...
That's a term coined by Kenya Kwanza.
Let us not forget that the right to demonstrate is also checked by another right or another person, protected by the same constitution, by the same law, and people should be allowed to go out and do their businesses. They are also allowed to go and demonstrate and picket and do it peacefully, considering the rights of the other Kenyans.
All right. Manzo, what is the future of Wiper? We've seen NAC Kenya clearly say that the Azimio union is not working, therefore we are leaving in the next 90 days, actually, 3 months, and they're out. What is the future? What is Wiper going to chart as a future? You know,
Azimio is still registered as a coalition, and Wiper is part of the Azimio coalition. We have many other parties, and on our main interview, Mother Karua said that the Azimio partners are still her great allies. And although they have disagreed on the matter of ODM joining government, that doesn't mean in the future you cannot reorganize yourselves and work together. Clearly, there is no single political party which can form government. You have to work on coalitions in the future, but still you can grow a political party to form government on its own if people support it and people join it. So nothing stops as many Kenyans as possible from joining Wiper. I am aware, quite a number of members of ODM who are not happy with the decision made to join government, and they are spread all over the country. There are even members of ODM in Wiper regions. So there are quite a number of them, and it's the decision to run in a political party or use their ticket is made by individual politicians. What I'm looking at is that Kenya should have clean politics in the future. And no wonder the Gen Zs have been asking, when will Kenya Kwanza stop lying? Because every other time they open their mouth, they lie to Kenyans. They make fake promises. They make promises they never keep. Kenyans can see through the arm twisting and all the corners be taken. For example, Kenyans said it is expensive to run government. Make it easy. That has not been done. There has been given excuses, contracts which have been given here and there, and even the so-called secret budget has not been withdrawn. All that Kenyans need to see is that the government is using their taxes prudently, and nobody will have a problem with a government which is prudent. But everybody can see the misuse, the splashing, the loss of money. You know, obviously that we raise a lot of taxes, but you can see even projects, many major projects in the country, in many parts of the country have not been completed, including Thwake Dam in Makueni. It has slowed down completely when Kenya Kwanza came to power, and resources have not been assigned. I want to say that although the president has dissolved the cabinet, and although Kenyans did not expect most of these cabinet secretaries to come back, and for a major reason, I'll give an example. Although Professor Kidiki fought it, and I have a lot of respect for him, I know it is not of his making. It is all that he is in a system which must compress him in a certain way. For the deaths which occurred in this country, the reasonable thing for a right-thinking cabinet secretary in charge of security would have been to resign. There is no way such atrocities can be committed in a department you are in charge, and you just say that is the work of the IG, and the IG has resigned. It's not enough. If the IG is the one who is guilty, together with his officers, we should have seen the IG charged by now. So there is a, responsibility. There is a political responsibility on the part of a cabinet secretary and on the part of the president. Okay. And when Kenyans talk and they express displeasure, they mean it. When the cost of living was made very high, and that's what the Gen Zs, for example, were asking. Why did you even think in the first place of taxi bread? The fact that you are thinking and you proposed it and you took it to Parliament, even if you pretended to withdraw it thereafter. And in fact, by the way, the finance bill was withdrawn illegally. You know, it's just politics. If it's the political will which has sent away the finance bill away, although Parliament eventually went and deleted everything, including the name of the bill.
Senator Manzo, but I hate to intervene, and I'm a professional and you are one. We are in a national platform. You cannot tell Kenyans that that bill was withdrawn illegally when it went through the normal process in Parliament. We all watched it. Let's be honest to Kenyans. Let's speak to them. Let's tell them the truth.
Is Manzo saying that the finance bill should have been signed into law?
Well, no, I'm not saying
you can't be saying
it is not signed into law. 14 days later. Automatically becomes
so you want Kenyans to bear the burden of the finance?
No. I'm just saying the right process should have been followed.
You see,
the right process should have been.
Kwanza is lying, but you're the one lying.
The right process should have been followed. The moment
that process was followed.
The process is this. I'm saying 14 days actually lapsed.
No, Manzo.
And although it cannot be brought back now, the only reason it cannot be brought back is the political heat from the people.
But you want it to be brought back?
No. You people would have played with Kenya's mind. And therefore, it is important that we do things within the law. Any law which has been passed by Parliament, actually the president has no control of it. He can refer it back. But even the process of referring back
with the recommendations,
although that was done, automatically, it had already become law in 14 days. What has happened is the Kenyans' pressure is what has sent this finance bill away. And we are saying
this one is not flying.
You need now to begin a process of making a new finance bill and follow the law when you make a new finance bill.
All right, I have to take some feedback, real quick feedback here, and then I come to you all for closing remarks on this. There's a lot coming through. Let's see if you can read some of them here. Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's bring that up and see what the people are saying on all these matters we've talked about in the State of the Nation right here online as well. We're speaking about the cabinet and the swearing in, which is happening from 9 a.m. And then also the young Gen Z says this is their final match. Nane Nane, again, they say is happening today. Frank Orinde. The president had the perfect chance to redeem himself by naming a competent and inclusive cabinet, but he failed. Article 54 hasn't been observed. The broad-based government is just a plot to silence the opposition. The president has brought the allegiance of ODM. Okay? Clement says if only the government could redirect the energy used to rightfully demonstrating young people to zealously fight corruption, Kenya would be a first world country. Dixon says what Professor is confirming to Kenyans is that it was an opportunity for political class to share positions. Which 47 state agencies were disbanded by the president? What role will Junet play? youths are still very angry with Ruto and Raila. Okay? Bob says it is clear that Parliament is a stooge of the executive by not probing on fundamental issues like wealth increase in a short period and anything that could show any nominee's unfitness. Okay? Dixon says based on history, who is going to check the excesses of the executive? Just think of illegal borrowings and appointments like the KRA ones, where Tangul and Sholei are executive reps, hence should not head vetting, but EACC should do that job. Okay, Ole Shonko says in the era of ChatGPT, the senator is talking about a document that can be prepared by an AI in less than 20 minutes. It was expected that they will have a clean bill of health despite even EACC questioning some qualifications. Sir Nixon says, I wish there could be an institute that teaches leaders how to listen. Leaders need to listen at least as much as they need to talk. Many of them fail to realize that real communication goes in both directions but prefer dictatorship. Otieno says, ask your panelists this. If all the KK administration budgets have been unfit for implementation both legally and morally, where do they get the moral authority to govern? Okay? Okelo Molimu says, I wonder how and why Kenyans would trust the same leaders who've made lying a hobby with the leadership positions come 2027. Recently, they told us they won't kill opposition, a promise on which they've passionately reneged. Death of alternatives is our main undoing. Okay, Prof, going forward now, what is your final remarks in terms of what's happening in the country right now? So there's protests coming through, there's a swearing in of the CSs also happening at the same time. What is the way forward?
Trevor, the country was at a tipping point, a political tipping point in early July. And that led to the dissolution of cabinet and a subsequent reconstitution and appointment of a new cabinet. And that cabinet will be sworn in this morning. Trevor, all I will tell Kenyans is that an opportunity for rebirth has presented itself. His Excellency President William Samoei Arap Ruto is keen on rebranding, reshaping, reforming, and giving this country a new face so that we are able to experience, Trevor, economic growth and address all those questions that led to the events that we saw in early July 2024. I think my message to Kenyans is this. Let us give the government an opportunity to deal with those issues that led to a near collapse of government. Let us give government an opportunity to deliver on the promise of economic growth. Let us give government an opportunity to deliver on the promise of inclusivity, and let us give this broad-based government a chance to deliver for the people of this country.
Okay.
Because truly, as I say, government and leadership is a true attractive saga.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Sige, closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to, as I close, respond to a number of the Kenyans who've responded to this conversation. Frank Korinde, for instance. I want to tell Frank that when you analyze the cabinet that was approved yesterday, the likes of CS Kindiki, CS Murkomen, CS Soipan, CS Duale, who were in the previous cabinet and have now been reappointed, it is out of their competence. I would like to ask the rest of the Kenyans to be very objective and not be swayed by the political statements that sometimes people make when they are making judgments on a number of issues and on personalities who've been given responsibility to lead in this country. And more importantly, let us allow the broad-based government that the Honorable His Excellency President Ruto has put in place with the rest of the Kenyans to at least get an opportunity to work and deliver on the promises made to the people of Kenya. There is so much that we need to do. We need to make changes in terms of the governance structure. We need to fight corruption. We need to look for jobs for our young generation. We just have a full in tray that it is an opportunity for us as Kenyans to ask the rest of us that we get this team that has been put into office an opportunity to also work so that 2-3 months down the line in the next financial year, we can begin now to ask them, give us the fruits of the opportunity we've given you to work for us. And that is the only request we make. And let's also equally be responsible Kenyans in our own space. That way, we will be able to keep the government in check for them to deliver.
All right.
Thank you.
Manzo, closing remarks. You're the only one I haven't had saying you're going to State House for the swearing.
No, I'm not going to State House. I don't wish to go and participate in an event where Kenyans are not happy with. I want to say that the Kenyans can no longer live a lie, and that freedom is coming tomorrow, because Kenyans are determined to redeem their nation out of corruption. Every other statement against fight of corruption has really been lip service, and unless you change the structures of the country effectively, and especially through an election, and I believe Kenyans are preparing themselves to do an election where they will remove bad governance. First, the young people need to acquire identity cards, and then secondly, they need to register as voters. Because even if you demonstrate and finally you will not vote, you have just wasted your energy, and that's the best way to participate in a democracy. Also form a political party or join a political party. Those are guaranteed in the Constitution, and that should not be curtailed to Kenyans. And I really want to add Kenyans, because not to tire in the quest for justice, to make sure that there is justice in the country. Corruption is fought, you know, and Kenyans to speak about it. But unfortunately, you know, when Kenyans go to testify against corrupt individuals, a lot of them have lost their lives, and therefore we need proper protection of witnesses and a very strong EACC and strong prosecuting bodies. That may not be achieved in the current regime, where checks and balances have been washed away. And unless a government in power is thoroughly checked by the opposition, then that government is compromised, is like a political party rule, is a dictatorship, and is not likely to deliver any development to any people, and is not likely to improve any lives. And therefore, Kenyans should stay vigilant and make sure that we have a proper government, because we all love our country. Whatever we do, let's all of us protect this nation. And we do not wish to see more killings of innocent Kenyans demonstrating, and the law must be followed because it exists.
All right, thank you all so much for making time this morning. All senators, all learned friends, but different views on these issues. Professor Tom Ojienda, Senator for Kisumu, Honorable Dan Manzo, Senator for Makueni, and Honorable Hilary Sigei, Senator for Bomet. Thank you all for making time this morning, and thank you all for all the feedback that you sent through. Coming up next is Cooking Tips. Bye for now.
Asante so much.
All right, thank you.